What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rewind Recap Relive. I'm your host, Jonah, coming to you sitting down for once, which is a change, bringing you another great episode this week featuring the delivery boy, Tony Chini, alongside ECW legend, Raven. But there's a few things we have to get to first on the agenda, so let's get to it. First things first, let's go over the giveaway winner for last week for the signed Raven t-shirt. Now, sadly, there can only be one of you. I really enjoyed reading through all the passionate wrestling fan comments on the Brutus video, but Sean Mandel, you are the winner, and as always, we will be in touch. Now, if you didn't win that Raven shirt, don't be too sad, because what I have in my hand will make you feel better. We have a giveaway coming up next week with Leaping Lanny Poffo and his incredible book, Wrestling with Rhymes, signed by Lanny himself, the genius Macho Man's brother, Lanny Poffo. Great performer, and he will be appearing on with Nacho Clown. Now, if you want this book, or any of our other giveaways, it's really the same thing you have to do. Comment hashtag R3giveaway down below in this video. Again, that is hashtag R3giveaway down below, and you will be entered to win this incredible book. Now that we took care of all that, all that's left for you guys to do is please subscribe to the channel. We have tons of amazing content on the way, and when I say amazing, you don't know what's in store for Rewind Recap Relive's fans. It's some really great stuff, so stay tuned for that. Like the video, share it around, comment below, even if you're not commenting to enter the giveaway. We love to hear what you have to say, but most of all, please enjoy the video. So our first guest is a rising star in the independent scene, wrestling as part of the Royal Familia. With only a few years in the business, he's already captured championship gold. He is the delivery boy, Tony Chini.
How you doing?
And our next guest has been with about every big Yeah.
I know. I was just going to ask, what does he deliver? But I ought to wait till you introduce me first.
Yeah. Our next guest has been with about every big promotion you can think of, from ECW, WCW, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor. He's regarded as one of the most gripping personalities on the microphone and one of the most talented workers. A record 27-time hardcore champion, Raven.
Actually, it's 39, but thank you.
I've heard, yeah, you have some disputes with the way they count it.
It's 39, but, you know, who's counting? Either way, I heard that I'm getting passed anyway, so for most...
Did R-Truth pass you yet, or no?
I don't know. I'm sure he will.
I think so.
So what does Tony Chini deliver anyway? Is he essential services? and where do you deliver?
It depends, because in these times, Tony Chini could be delivering Grubhub or DoorDash, but when I really meant to do it, it was for pizza delivery, for like the pizza delivery character. But now I'm actually with the Royal Familia, like you mentioned. I'm trying to get away from that and deliver more ass beatings.
Delivery of ass beatings. Nice. Now let me just say, every wrestling promo is essentially, how can I beat somebody up?
Yeah.
That is really the genesis, the gist of basically every promo ever cut, is how I'm going to beat somebody up and how I'm going to do it. And that's a clever way of saying it. So I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So I want to start off with something basic. So how did you guys both get into wrestling, and where did the passion come from where, it was just going to be an interest to where it was going to be your career? So could I start with you first, Raven?
Yeah, I'll let Tony go first. I know my story frontwards and backwards. Let's hear Tony's story.
Okay.
Sure. So actually, I've just, since I was a kid, always loved wrestling, and started watching in 2004, actually. And like the hot thing when I started watching was Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So
Right.
That feud, and like the culmination of that feud at WrestleMania 20, like all that kind of got me interested in really wanting to do it as a kid. And I kind of kept that interest, kept growing up, and just didn't know where to start really, and didn't really even know about like any schools in the area or anything like that. And all of a sudden I ended up meeting 911 at a bar just by chance, and we became friends and exchanged phone numbers, and he ended up opening a school and gave me the opportunity to train there, and that was my start.
And when was that?
That was in 2017 when I started.
Oh, wow. So you really are a rookie.
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know 911 had a wrestling school.
Very short period of time. Yeah, it wasn't even a full year, and it ended up closing because just I think they had to sell the building or something like that. But me and his son, Big Dom, we actually are roommates now, so he still helps me out.
Oh, cool. Tell 911 I said hi.
I definitely will. Yeah.
Okay, so how I got into wrestling was I answered the ad on the back of a cereal box. No, I wish there would have been an ad in the back of a cereal box. Oh yeah, no, I was also saying, say hi to 911 for me when you see him.
Yeah, definitely will.
Please. Always liked him. Yeah, he was like the last guy to wear a mullet and still make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it worked on him for some reason. Like he had a leather jacket with a fringe on it, and he wore like Zubaz pants.
Look at this.
But it still worked. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, not a leather jacket. That's right. No, he had a jacket and a vest. He had two of them. Anyway, so I was a wrestling fan as a kid. Always wanted to do it, but then you just think that's never gonna. People don't actually do that. Yeah. So I would put away my childish dreams and went to college and got a degree in criminal justice. Joined the Marine Corps. Took a semester off of college. Joined the Marine Corps. Graduated college, and decided I needed to be famous to fill a void in my soul that was missing. A hole in me.
Right.
That we needed to fill with the adulation of perfect strangers, which as much as everybody says it doesn't work, when you feel that way, you're convinced it'll work for you. So, and it didn't work, obviously, but it didn't matter because it's what I wanted to do. So I'm glad it forced me into doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go to wrestling to become a pro wrestler. So I went to shopping for wrestling schools, which there were 3 at the time, I believe. It wasn't like now where there's a wrestling school every, you throw a rock, in the South, you hit a wrestling school.
Yeah.
They're usually, if you throw a rock in the South, you're going to hit a Waffle House, a bar, or a wrestling school. Okay, maybe not that many wrestling schools, but there's a lot. And the sad thing is they're usually being taught by people who know nothing, who never made it anywhere, and who were trained by somebody else who never made it anywhere. And the odds of you not making it somewhere, if you have skill, is exceedingly rare. So you're getting trained by people that shouldn't be training. You should have a license to train. But anyway, that's a soapbox for me to get on for another time. But so I started looking at wrestling schools, and I wanted to go to Malenko's, but I couldn't find any information on it. So there was the other schools were Kowalski's. I think Tony Altamari, Lou Albano's old partner, had a school.
Okay.
I think he shared it with a gym with a bodybuilder, Ken Passarello, and Larry Sharp's Monster Factory. So maybe 4, but I couldn't find Malenko's, so it was down to 3. And even though I'd never really heard of Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, I never really heard of him. He seemed like he appeared to be basically he was a Buddy Rose, an attempted another Buddy Rose Playboy Buddy Rose.
Yeah.
And even though I'd never really knew him, he had an article in Sports Illustrated about him, which was enormous. I mean, Sports Illustrated never touched wrestling. So I was like, yeah, I should go there because, he's got he has the press.
Yeah, credibility.
Yeah, and so wrestling school is actually the only thing that inflation doesn't affect. It actually, wrestling schools cost $3,000 back in the day, and they basically they still try to get $3,000 for them, but a lot of times they never, the students, it costs less. So it's inflation proof. Wrestling school is inflation proof. And so I paid the $3,000 and went to wrestling school, went for a month. And after a month, Larry said, I taught you everything I can teach you. You need to go in front of people.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, I'm this is something I was a natural at. I'm not a natural at many things, but I'm a natural at this.
Right.
And it's not because of my athleticism. You know, it's just my ability to understand body language and movement. And like, you know, like I'm not a great athlete, like, but I look athletic as hell dropping a fly ball.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not going to be winning any athletic awards, but the wrestling isn't based on athletics. I mean, it's so much more now, but even that is, you don't have to be a great athlete. You just have to understand the dynamics, the movement dynamics. But it's really about charisma, and selling and psychology. And those were all my strong suits. And anyway, like, you know, after a month of wrestling school, I knew how to take a back bump, because you started taking back bumps the first day. I knew how to take a hip toss. I knew how to take an arm drag. Knew how to take a slam. I knew how to work an arm, you know, grab a headlock. What else is there? You know, I mean, that's the basics, especially back in 1987. You need to learn the basics, and then you got to be in front of people. You got to have matches. And that's really how you learn how to work. And then you learn even more in a ride home, you know, because you ride home with a veteran and he tells you, oh, kid, your match sucked and this is why. And then they rip it apart and you go, oh, that's great, man. Thank you. And you are grateful, because, you know, that's the only way to learn. Like, I always used to get so, I used to like tear people's matches apart, not mean, not cruel, but I would tell them, I'd say, hey, they go, what do you think of my match? And I go, this sucked and this sucked. You could have done that better. You could have. And to me, that's what I wanted to hear. But I learned over years that people just don't take that the way I take it. They want to, you know, people want to be told good match, you know, and so I learned to be more judicious. In my telling, when somebody asks me what I think of their match, I'll say, well, this was really good. This was really good. This was really good. But, and then I'll give the laundry list of all the crap that they did. And then I'll try and end it with a couple good things again, you know, so it's good, bad, good. But I just never believed in that in the past when I was younger, because, yeah, I mean, it's, you know what you did good. You have to know what you did good. I mean, people just wanted a pat on the ass. And I was like, why am I giving them, you know, so I got a lot of heat for being, but I just wasn't political. You know, it wasn't, not that I couldn't be political. I just didn't have any interest in it, you know?
Yeah. Tony, when you stepped in the ring, was it a given for you? Did you take naturally to wrestling, or did it have to take a couple of years training?
It took a little bit for me to kind of like just pick up like certain movements, and like kind of like how hard do I do this, or how soft do I do this, or is it just little things like that. And it's kind of like one of those things that, like he said, like you kind of have to feel a lot of those things out in front of a live crowd to see what works and what doesn't. I mean, from my understanding, you said that you trained with Larry Sharp for a month before getting in front of a live crowd, right?
Well, actually, that's when he said I need to go get booked in a territory. Like he goes, I taught you everything I can at the school. You need to go get a territory. So what I did was I started mailing VHS tapes, because that was in 1987, a VHS tape to all the promotions. And every 3 weeks I would follow it up, you know, and then every 3 weeks I would send them a VHS tape of my matches, of my compilation of matches, like, you know, high spots and stuff. And then I would call them up, you know, like a couple days later and see if they got it and what they thought. And then 3 weeks later, I would try again, send them another VHS tape, and, or maybe 4 weeks. And in the interim, until I got booked in Memphis, which was 9 months, I had 7 to 9 matches. I don't know. I can't decide. I can't remember whether I had 7 or 9, but it wasn't 8. That's where you figured out, me and my old commentator partner, my Busby, one of my best friends. We've come down to 7 to 9, 7 or 9, but it's not 8 matches. So it, you know, don't ask me how that figures out mathematically. But like my first match was like after like 3-4 weeks because Larry Sharp's school would put on a match. He'd guarantee you one match. He goes, he wouldn't guarantee anything else. He goes, look, you go to college, nobody guarantees you a job. So he goes, I'll guarantee you one match, and that's it. So we made sure students had a match, and so we had a student show. And I wrestled Ray Odyssey on the match, and it was all right. I remember he drop kicked me in the waist. that I always made fun of him for. Like his drop kick was very low, it was in the waist. Yeah. So then I still go to the wrestling school a couple nights a week just to practice moves and stuff, you know. But I got a job bouncing at a club, and then just kept sending tapes every 3 weeks. And the companies that were still working were Puerto Rico, obviously WWE and WCW, but I didn't send tapes to them. The Puerto Rico, the Savaldis ran I got hooked up with them. They ran like once a month, one weekend a month, and so I would do shows for them. But to get booked into territory, I would send tapes to Puerto Rico, Kansas City, Continental, Memphis, Florida, Portland. And I didn't want to go to Calgary, so I don't think I sent any tapes to Calgary because it's too far, too cold, and it was just brutal there from what I understood. And there was also one other territory that I didn't know about, which was Al Tomko's in Vancouver, Canada. So I sent it to about 6 different places, and after about 9 months, I finally got brought into Memphis and started my career. And it was like I think it was like February. It was either February 17th or February 20th that I started full time. So that's like the day that I feel like I started my career was that day, even though I don't know which day it is.
It was definitely challenging back then. Tony, how do you feel today, and how easy it is to get in front of people, or is it still that challenging, would you say?
Well, it's like, I mean, just hearing that story, it's so much different in my experience because.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to cut you off, but I was going to say that for you, like the reason I only had 7 to 9 matches is it was really hard to get booked. Back then, and because there's so many guys with so little spots, and everybody's booking their buddies, you know, to fill up the card. And so I was lucky to have 7, you know, let's just say 7 matches. I was lucky to have 7 matches. But man, it was like, because I would try to get booked in all the independent promotions too, not just I'd send a tape every 3 weeks to the big companies, but then there was a lot of independent stuff I'd send tapes to. But for you, I think nowadays it's much easier, isn't it, to get booked on independent shows, like when you're first starting out? Yeah. Or no, I don't know.
A lot of people tell us to just kind of like show face and go to the shows, and that's like the big thing now. And it's weird because you'll show up to a show and there's already 14 matches on the card, but then there'll be extra people who show up, and then there's 2 pre-show matches now. And it's like, that's too much wrestling, you know?
Way too much.
It's insane. So, I mean, I think that it should definitely be more selective. You know what I mean? Like, you should definitely, you know, I mean, if somebody shows face, you know, maybe tell them, hey, next time come back and we'll give you a chance. But a lot of like, you showed up and now I'm going to give it to you right now. And like, a lot of people, if they don't get booked, they'll leave, and then they don't want to help out for the end of the show or whatever, and that doesn't really look good on you. But anyway, it's really just a fact of showing up right now, and I also send my resume and I send clips to people, but it's more through now like Facebook and Instagram and not even really email, honestly.
Well, I'm assuming you're in Jersey, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but there's like 8,000 promotions in Jersey, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So there wasn't that many back in the day when I started, and people they didn't run as many random shows. Like a lot of people run the shows here, there, everywhere. Back then, they were like more steady working random, independents, like, you know, monthly companies and stuff. But like, I remember like one show I got in a battle royal. Like I went along with Tom Brandy and this guy King Kalua, and I would ride with them, and so they got me in a battle royal, you know, which I was excited about. I was trying to make sure I lasted as long as I could.
Yep.
You know, like who cares, you know? Yeah, it's like you had to have somebody introduce you and get you in because there's just only so many jobs. But it just seems like now, if you go to a school, most schools have like a lot of shows, like, you know, they do run. So you're going to get more bookings than what I got back in the day. You're probably going to get, and there's also, I think I think it's, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but, you know, because I don't know for being a completely green, but having 911 vouch for you probably helps a lot too, right?
Oh,
At their
definitely.
school.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, because you know he always tells me that if I ever need anything, just shoot him a message, or if he ever needs it, like if I need.
But I'm saying, but he can get you booked on shows though, right?
Well, he doesn't really know like the promoters around here that much. I mean, he knows a
Oh,
couple of them, but and he's helped me get on a couple of those shows. But for the most part, I'm kind of as
on
far as
your own.
I'm on my own, and I just kind of go out and I go with friends and I know some other people and other people have helped me. Like I know promoters here that have helped me get booked in like Ohio or St. Louis.
Right.
So, that's cool. But as far as like the promoters around here, I've learned kind of you have to be selective. And even though you want to be on all the shows, you got to pick and choose because some of them are it's just incredible. It's just craziness.
Well,
in the locker room or on the show is just disorganized or whatever.
okay, but why wouldn't you want to be on those shows just to get more work in?
I mean, I think it's just because there's like at this point, it's like now there's some weekends where I'm booked on 3 shows in a weekend.
I thought you meant like you would turn down shows and have nothing.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, I misunderstood you.
No, like I would just like you can't overhaul it. Yeah, like you just.
Oh no, you can only do so many shows in a night.
Yeah, exactly. Like
especially when you're green, because if you're late, then you're really fucking people over. Like when you're a veteran or a star, it's accepted. You're like, hey, he's booked twice. He's the main event on one show, so the other show to let him go on first. But if you're a rookie or a green kid, yeah, you can't do that. You're lucky to get one show a night. But I think it's easier to get started now. I think it's easier to get booked now as a starting kid. But it's also so much harder to get good because when you go work in a territory, you're working 6 nights a week, 5 to 7 nights a week. And so you learn how to work. You either learn how to work or you're never going to be a good worker. That's how it is. I mean, but when you're working weekly or monthly, it's like, I used to say, like when I talk to kids now, when I give seminars, I'll ask them all how many matches they had. And first I'll ask them how many years they've been in the business. And some guys will say like 7 years, 8 years. And I'll ask them how many matches they had. And they go 100. And I'm like, I had 300 matches in my first year. Like you've had 108 years. Don't tell people you've been working 8 years, because I know you want to sound like you know what you're doing. So if you say 8 years, veterans are going to expect you to work like you've been doing it 8 years in the way in their mind, like 8 years of working full time, not 8 years of, a month, 6, 12 matches a year.
Yeah.
And so I try and get people to downplay the years, and like if they're working with a veteran to say, like if I was going to work with you, I'd ask you how many matches you had, not how many years you've been working, because it's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough. I'm on I wrestle on a YouTube show too, so we do tapings weekly, and so I get.
It's good practice. It's great practice to learn.
Exactly, and I get more ring time that way because we're doing tapings sometimes 3 days a week. So it's like I'm in the ring 3 days a week doing those tapings, and then one of those extra days is on a show, and I got to try out all these things that I wanted to do on the show on these tapings now.
Right.
To kind of perfect them instead of just saying, "Oh, let me just try that in the ring, see if it works," because I hate doing that. But
right. I always tried new stuff out first time in the ring. Like I just give it I'd rather gamble on it and hope it hits. But by the same token, it's probably smarter to do it the other way. Like one time I tried to do a springboard clothesline, and I was in Portland wrestling, and I was working on top as a heel, and so I was like, I can do a springboard. I could do that. And I practiced springing up to make sure I could get that high. And so in the match, I springboarded. I leaped up on the apron onto the top rope. And the guy, Rex King, who I was about to hit, had his back to me. So I was getting him from behind. And the ropes were a wire with a plastic piece around it. So I landed on the top rope. The plastic spun. I took a face bump.
Oh.
And Rex is waiting for me. This was live on TV. Rex is waiting for me to hit him, and he's just standing there with his back to me, like with his thumb up his ass. So I reached out and ankle picked him.
Desperate measures for sure.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah,
but that also the great thing as a heel is it doesn't matter if you fuck up. All you got to do is sell it that you fucked up, get upset, put it over. Doesn't matter. Everything's coverable.
Tony, can you touch upon a little bit? Tell us who are the Royal Familia. Who are you guys in the ring?
Well, I got me, the delivery boy, and then my tag team partner, the Prince of Parmesan, Joey Angelo. And then my fiance, who's also my manager and sometimes my tag team partner, she's the Spaghetti Queen, Francesca. So we kind of just we have the Italian thing going on, obviously, and sometimes I do an in-ring talk show segment called Today's Special. So we like to do stuff like that. And basically I'll have the Spaghetti Queen, Francesca, serve up the spaghetti while we talk to our guests. And then, obviously food starts flying and all that good stuff. But basically, I'm kind of like the leader of the group. And then Francesca's she's on the side, always there to help us. And then Joey Angelo is kind of like the in-your-face, he doesn't need to talk because he just wants to beat your ass kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And do you think it makes it easier for you, being new in your career, to have those people by your side to help you?
Yes, definitely.
They're as green as you though, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it's
so there's a certain positive to that you're all hungry and want to try all new stuff. But then there's also a negative to it that you don't have any veteran to go, okay, well, this, you should do this more and this less. And, that's why it's always good, to have an old school guy in the, managing, or as a part of the act, if it's a group act, to get somebody who's a veteran involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at all promoting me. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to pitch. I'm not trying to pitch that at all.
Well, hey, Ray, if you want to join the Familia, there's always room.
No, thank you, but no, thank you. But it's not my character. But no, I'm just saying, but you ought to find if you get a veteran in, if you can, or tell the promoter if you're doing it all the time, and then get some, and that way you get him a payoff, get an old timer a payoff, and you get more knowledge,
Yeah. I was actually talking to a promoter not too long ago about maybe doing something with Nunzio, because that would be.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah. So yeah,
that'd be absolutely perfect.
And we also, obviously we don't just we talk to the vets about our matches and all that kind of stuff. But the difference between talking to somebody and talking to somebody who's actually in your partnership is light years different, because the partner is going to he's going to have more at stake because he wants to see your act succeed because it's more bookings for him. Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna really dial down and dial you into what you need to what needs to be done and what needs to be worked on, what doesn't need to be worked on. They'll also be more free, I think, in giving you their opinion without worrying about hurting your feelings, because they're part of the act, So yeah, Nunzio would be perfect. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna ask Raven. You're obviously familiar with the hat guy.
The hat guy.
He was always the guy in the front row of the crowd at ECW.
Right.
I'm not sure if you know this, but he started managing.
Oh, really?
After ECW, he went to, do you know Triple WA? It's in Pennsylvania. They've been running for a while. But anyway, he started managing there a long time ago, pretty much 2001. So pretty much at the end of ECW. And he has been there ever since. And he also wants to manage me. So.
Well, I don't know what his knowledge is, but Nunzio would be the much better choice.
100% for the character.
And Nunzio could be the player coach foodie.
Yeah. No, he's definitely a good mind. I've met him a few times, and he jokes around. He'll see me and he'll be like, "Hey, this is the guy who stole our gimmick," and
right
stuff. So he's a nice guy. I like talking to him.
Yeah, you ought to see if you can get him involved.
Definitely.
And Raven, can you talk a little bit about going from WWE to ECW to WCW and then finally back to WWE? Did anyone else play a role in that, or was that all you, just going from promotion to promotion?
I can't keep a job. Yeah, no, I started, I've worked, I'm lucky. I'm like the last of the old school guys. I feel like, because I'm
Right.
like the last guy that worked all the territory, not all the territories, but a lot of the territories, that like, Scott Hall was probably the last old school guy before me. So he'd probably be the second last old school guy. But, I consider that an old school guy, somebody who's worked for, like Scott Hall worked for everybody, AWA. He worked for Florida Championship Wrestling. He worked for
Right.
Kansas City. He worked for all the smaller territories. Well, not AWA wasn't smaller; they were bigger, but he was in the business way before me. But I'm like the last guy that went through the territories to have big success. Because I started out in Memphis.
Yeah.
Then I went to Florida Championship Wrestling. Then I went to Vancouver for Al Tomko. Then I went to Portland Wrestling. Then I went to Global Wrestling. Then I went to WCW. Then back to Memphis, the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can't ever leave. After Memphis, I went to WWF, then ECW, then WCW, then back to ECW, then back to WWF, then to TNA. So it's a litany of places.
Yeah.
But usually I either quit because I wasn't happy or I got let go because they didn't like me.
Yeah.
There's a recurring theme of not being liked.
Not for the character, but for you personally, like the backstage culture. And which one would you say was the one you fit in best with yourself? Not the one that used your character best, unless they're the same one.
Yeah, they're usually the same, because what happens is when you're not being used well, it affects you on a personal level. Like, okay, like if you're treated like a piece of shit, you feel like a piece of shit. And it took me years on a shrink's couch to realize that we should never define ourselves by what we do, because what you do is not who you are. But it's so hard to separate the two because they're so part and parcel, But I fit in the best, I think, like in Portland, when I first got there. Or I don't know if I fit in the best. I always was an odd fit. Like I was always I don't know. I was loud, obnoxious. But ECW. But my favorite places to work, let me put it that way, were Portland and ECW.
Okay.
Because both companies, I got to be used to the best of my ability, and I got to perform what I wanted to perform, how I wanted to perform it. And like Portland was 6-7 nights a week. It was maybe once in a while it'd be 5 nights, but it was generally 6 nights a week, sometimes 7. And you worked 10 to 15 minutes every night. And you worked with guys who were either going up the card or down the card. So you're either working with green guys or you're working with veterans. And you can learn from both. But it's the car rides afterwards that I really like. That's where I picked the grappler was the booker, Lynn Denton.
Okay.
And that's where I picked his brain. And like he wouldn't necessarily offer up information. You had to pick his brain and ask the right questions. But it's how I learned how to book too. Like, because I remember I was there and I go, and so he'd always make me drive because I was the greenhorn, which you should. Like greenhorns, there's a pay in your dues. And I think it made me a better person because of it. My dog's coming into the
Was coming on the show?
Yeah, my dog's coming. He wants a payoff though, so he's only sticking his butt out.
Oh, I get you. Yeah.
So let me see. You can't see him. Wait. Hey, he's gone. Just like Kaiser Soze, he was gone. Anyway, but I think it's like I enjoyed paying my dues. I enjoyed being forced to drive everywhere. Like I didn't want to, but it makes you respect it more. And so one day I go to the grappler. I go, I want to be in a cage match. I always wanted to be in a cage match because cage matches are cool, I'd only been working full time at that point, a year. I mean, I spent 2.5 months in Memphis, 10 months in Florida, and then I was in Portland. And they put me basically right on. Piper was running the show because he was from there, and he was booking, and he basically put me on top, made me the first heel commentator. And so I was like, I want to be in a cage match. And so the grappler was a de facto booker, but really Piper was calling the shots for the most part. But the grappler was running the day-to-day. And the grappler was a hell of a worker, one of the most underrated workers ever. Like, when he was 20, he was working on top for Bill Watts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was only 5'9".
Yeah.
And 240, you know, and Watts 5'9", 220 maybe at the time. And Watts 5'10", maybe 5'10", I guess. But Watts loved big guys. So to put a guy who was that young and that green on top working with the Junkyard Dog is crazy. That's how good a worker he was. He was a natural. And and then he just never, it's his career. Read his book. His book's a great book, but it's a long story. Anyway, so I go, I want to be in a cage match. Always wanted to be in a cage match. Cage matches look cool. You know, I want to sit on top of the cage and punch and, you know, like sitting on top of the cage and punch the other guy and have a toe-to-toe sitting on top of the cage I had this vision of. Well, I found out later that sitting on top of the cage really hurts your butt. It's annoying as hell to sit on there. And also the way the Portland Sports Arena was, which was a converted bowling alley. The Don Owens bought a bowling alley and converted it into an arena, just basically stuck a ring in it and tore down the alleys. And it held like 3,500 people, and it was loud. I mean, because it was low ceiling, so the sound was super loud. And but I found that when you sit on top of the cage, you can't really see you up, like, because the cage was only, even though it was only like those 10-foot NWA ones, the top of the screen and like the way the camera's shot, they didn't shoot like enough, and the roof came down apart. And basically it was like, if I remember correctly, like you couldn't even see it, basically the toe-to-toe on top. So I was like, but that's just a sidebar. The point is I want to be in a cage match. So he goes, all right. He goes, well, what are you going to do the week before? I go, I don't know. He goes, well, figure it out. So I come back to him. I go, what if we do this? He goes, all right, but what are you going to do the week after? I go, I don't know. He goes, figure it out. So I come back to him. I go, I could do this. No, that's stupid. How about this? No, how about this? Okay, that's good. I'm like, all right, so I can have a cage match? He goes, no, you got to do something. What are you going to do the week after that? And he forced me to learn how to book episodically, you know, how to lead into something and how to lead out of it.
Yeah.
And I can't thank him enough for the knowledge he gave me.
That's wonderful. It's an incredible technique, definitely to learn and to keep with you. Tony, have you ever been in a cage match? I saw you not into that. Have you been in one yet?
Yeah, we filmed a cage match on GTS before, actually. Yeah, so we didn't really do much with the cage though, which I kind of, just looking back, was a little disappointed.
Yeah, that's where a veteran would have been nice to have with you, because he would have been like, well, use the cage more. I mean, why have it as a prop unless you're going to use it? That's why, sidebar, that's why I always like having the cage. Like, that's why I like being in hardcore matches, because I had more props to work with. It's like, you know, instead of having just being able to do a spot, now I can do a spot with like the drop to hold on the chair. You know, instead of just swinging a chair or swinging a thing, and I try to make it more creative. And actually, I have to actually give credit for that. The drop to hold on the chair, I didn't actually come up with that. I wish I did. But I saw Shane Douglas use it one night, and I thought it was the most creative use of like a chair I'd ever seen. And I was like, this is great. I go, are you going to use that again? He goes, no, you can have it. I'm like, I'm taking it. And I made it a signature move. But on the same token, just so I get credit where credit's due, the Three Amigos, I actually invented that. Simon Diamond took it from me when I stopped doing it. And then Simon says Eddie got it from him.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
And the triple German I gave Benoit in one of our matches to do.
That's pretty.
Like I think it was at the Harrow Arena. Me and Benoit, he's like, he was trying to come up with a comeback. And I was like, why don't you give me the German and and then hold on and give me another one and another one.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Yeah.
I think that's from the Harrow Arena. It blurs together. But so some stuff you make up, some stuff, you borrow, some stuff you steal, somebody else like it. You just can't steal from somebody in the same company. But
right.
You have to find, which brings me off to a tangent. I go off on so many tangents. It's ADD. But that's how, because I'm trying to teach him while I'm also talking to you. And so you want to have like 4 moves, 4 things that are yours that you can do to everybody. And the reason why is if you can do 4 things, every match is going to look different because I have 4 things, you have 4 things. That's going to look like one thing. You have 4 things and they work with somebody else. He has 4 different things. And the reason I don't say learn everything is because then you become a guy who can do every move, but none of them well. Mm-hmm. You know, you perfect 4 things and then maybe you perfect the 5th, maybe you perfect the 6th, but it's better to do a handful of things really well than a lot of things okay. And the things are like hitting my pose, that's a thing.
Yeah.
You know, sitting in the corner, that's a thing. So I have way more than 4, you know, my finish, that's a thing. My pose, that's a thing. Then to get into the move set, you know, so which is people like stuff that it's like why we like TV, you know, why TV is so endearing to us because you see the same characters doing it involved in different scenarios. And when you watch television, unlike a movie where you get to see them one time and that's it, but whereas TV, you see them weekly. So if you have identifiable things that people can go, oh, that's his thing, and they can play the home game, you know, where they start saying your catchphrase at home, hitting your pose at home with their friends, you know. Yeah. Like I'm sure as a fan, you probably hit the crotch chop on all your friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
That's what I'm saying. You played a home game. And so if you can have identifiable things and signature moves, now you have a whole match worth of stuff.
It definitely makes sense. It's just, you know, because when people come to see you, this is something that I've been told is when they come to see you, they come to see your stuff. And you have, like, some people have that mindset, which I've had before, like, oh, if I do the same stuff, people get bored. But if people want to see you, they want to see that stuff that they've been seeing already and that stuff that they already link to and they like.
They want to play the hits. You go to see a band, you want to hear them play the hits.
Yeah.
You know, some people only want the deep cuts. But, you know, it's like Kiss says. Kiss says, basically, we're going to play all the hits because that's what people pay to see. You know, the bands that don't play the hits are jerks because they're not giving the fans what they want. And so, but that's where it comes in handy because you hit your signature things. So let's say you have 3 signature things and 4 signature moves. So that's 7 things, right? I got 7 things. Our 7, I said it before, but I'll say it again. Our 7 is going to be completely different looking. So it's not going to look the same as your 7 with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like they used to say you should have 4 moves, but I think you should have 4 moves and then a couple things. You know what I mean? So as I think about it. But so your matches are never going to be the same, you know, because, and also remember this, you could have the same match every week for months. And you know how long it would take before anybody realized it?
I would actually be surprised if anybody really realized. Honestly.
They don't. I mean, it's like they used to do angles for the house, like on territories. You run 6-7 days a week. You run the same towns every couple nights. Like okay, in West Palm Beach in the Florida Championship Wrestling, they ran West Palm Beach every Monday, and every so often they would shoot an angle for the house. But I never got that because if it didn't appear on TV, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Am I right though?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, it's like
so. Yeah.
And besides, you can barely remember what happened on TV on Saturday. How are you going to remember what happened as an angle at the show on Monday, the week before? You know what I mean? So, yeah, you know, so you could do the same match every week for a long time before anybody started to go, hey, that's the same actual match. You know, like Flair is accused of using the same moveset, the same basic match with everybody, but you never knew it until it was on TV every week, and it became exposed. But before that, nobody could tell, you know?
Yeah.
And it was great because he found a way to work with anybody, and he was going to work with mostly monsters. He found a way to work with monsters that was safe, that was exciting, that was amazing, you know, and so it was really smart, but it still changed up every match a little bit because, you know, Sting would have a slightly different match than he would with, you know, Vader, with so-and-so, you know.
Yeah. So, Tony, could you speak a little bit about how the delivery boy gimmick came to be?
Yeah. It's actually, it's an interesting story because me and Vin were training at the school one day and we were just taking a break and we kind of stumbled into the building next door, which was not occupied at the moment. We were just kind of looking around, and we found a pizza paddle in there. And we were just looking at it. We were thinking about gimmicks already. That's what we were talking about before.
Good.
And we were just like, well, what about the pizza delivery boy? And I'm like, I don't know. It might be a little silly. I don't know about that. But then I'm thinking to myself, if I'm not a character, like, because at first, like, I feel like my mindset was like, I want to be like the wrestler, just my name and I'm the wrestler. But people don't grasp that at first sometimes. So, having that character really helped me. And I realized that once I started going into the YouTube show and doing stuff like that I needed a character, and nobody would care about just me walking in there without something.
Yeah. That's why we're like, so many guys wanted to be like Benoit before he became a double murderer. But so many guys wanted to be like Benoit, but there's only one Benoit. Only one guy can get away with, can work that style at a time, really, and stand. Maybe two guys could, maybe a third, but you'd have to be so damn good to be able to pull that off. But everybody wanted to be like him. And so I would always advise guys, if you want to be like him, find a way to do it, but make your own character with it. Don't just be like you say, a wrestling guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you can look at Wrestling 1 and Wrestling 2. Wrestling 1, Mr. Wrestling, that was his thing. He was a wrestling guy. They brought 2 in who had his own unique style of being the wrestling guy, and he got over bigger than Wrestling 1 did. I was such a fan of Wrestling 2. But so you can have more than one doing that kind of character, but it's such a hard way to start, like, as you found out, and B, if you're going to do it, you have to be really damn good, to do something that's pure, no gimmick. And even no gimmick is really a gimmick. Yeah. But the idea is you want to be a character. You want to be a personality, not so much a gimmick, but a personality. And I, as you were saying, do you bring the pizza paddle to the matches?
It depends. The pizza paddle, I don't bring as much. The pizza box is what I usually have.
Because the pizza paddle would be a great foreign object. Like the old lady, have your girlfriend carry it and almost use it like a cane. Like, hold this and let the paddle be on the floor, and she can use it like a cane. Not that she needs a cane, but like a highfalutin person has a cane.
Yeah.
And then she could use it for false finishes, and you could probably find a LARPer to gimmick it, to make one. Yeah, and you could finally find a way. You could probably find somebody who does role playing thing, those live action role playing games.
Yeah,
and make it so it makes a sound when you hit, because wood doesn't really make much of a sound. It doesn't have a.
Well, what I do is I have Velcro on this side, and what I do is I Velcro a pizza pan, a metal pizza pan.
Oh, perfect!
And it makes a big sound. And what I do is I'll either write something or I'll glue like a picture to the front of the pizza pan of my opponent or whatever's going on.
Brilliant. That's amazing. That way you don't even need to take it to somebody to fix it. Just you Velcro on a pizza pan. Because what else would you have on there but a pizza pan? It fits, and they make a lot of noise. Exactly. It's great.
It makes a lot of noise because if you Velcro it right in the middle, then the sides aren't Velcroed and it's going crazy and it's making a lot of sound. So. And
instead of her carrying it like a cane, do you carry it over your shoulder like you know what I'm talking?
Mallet, maybe.
Like a what?
Like those mallets that,
so you come in like what? Yeah, that's great, man. That's a great character. That's great. I mean, characters that's great gimmick use for your character.
I appreciate that.
And you can also take it into a slightly filthy side. You can go, what's Francesca's gimmick name?
The Spaghetti Queen.
The spaghetti queen, but she also likes the sausage too. If you wanted to take it that way, there's a lot of double entendres you can do with,
Yeah, no, there's plenty we could do with that. For
yeah,
sure.
No, it's great.
That's why we set it up that way, because we knew that there was plenty that we could do with it.
No, I like it.
The big thing is everybody wants Francesca spaghetti. That's the big thing. Like everybody, like it's like the hot meal ticket. Everybody wants to have a taste of Francesca spaghetti. That's like the thing.
And then you could also go and, but some people like Parmesan. She doesn't like chicken. She likes the eggplant Parmesan.
Well, Raven, you're showing off right now. Definitely one of the most creative minds in the business, and you have the most renowned promos, I'd say, in the industry.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about your process? Because I've heard before, we had New Jack on the show, and he said he'd see you writing backstage for hours, hours on end to get your promos right. Can you speak a little bit about that? Maybe lend a little advice to Tony?
Yeah, I don't always, like, sometimes I wing them, sometimes I write them. But what I do is I have a notepad with all kinds of ideas for promos, and then, or phrases or lines from songs I really like. And the thing is, if you use song lyrics, if somebody doesn't recognize them, you get credit for coming up with the phrase. But if they recognize it, it's even better, because instead of going, hey, plagiarism, they go, I know that song.
Yeah.
So it identifies. So it actually works both ways, whether they recognize it or not. And so, like, I try to have like a cool phrase. Every 1 to 3 sentences should be a cool phrase, something unique. And so if I'm writing a promo, say I gotta beat up the delivery guy. So I'll look at my notes. I'll go, I'll find a phrase. I'll go, scars are souvenirs you never lose. And at this point, I don't have to look in my notebook. I just come up the top of my head. And for a long time, and I could always pretty much come up with it off the top of my head. But when I was at my best, I really wanted to put the effort in. So I would actually write out a lot of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and the longer ones I'd write out, because like Mick Foley, he just does them all day in his head. Me, I can't be bothered. I don't want to have to worry about doing a promo until it's time, until I have, if I have an hour before the show, then I'll, if it's really long, I'll write the whole thing out, memorize it, and then forget it. And then when I say it, it becomes fresh again.
Right.
Because I'm just remembering it. I just try to memorize the first line. I memorize the whole thing, then I forget it, except for the first line, because you need the first line to get you going. And, but yeah, so I'd be like, so say I want to use the line, scars are souvenirs you never lose. So I would say something like, pizza delivery guy, you're getting, I'll use your, I'll use your head turn your head cranium into a flower pot, and I'll plant all I'll plant your spaghetti girl. Well, I'd say spaghetti whore, but I'm not going to insult your girlfriend, but you know what I mean? But in a promo, plant your spaghetti whore in that pot, and the only thing you'll be, and then I'll beat you. But the emotional pain, the physical pain won't be as bad as the emotional pain of seeing your career ended so quickly. And you'll remember it because scars are souvenirs you never lose.
On the spot. Yeah.
Thank you. But it's just, I have a phrase will pop into my head, and I'm like, I want to get this in, and I'll find a way to work it in if I can. If I can't, then I don't, But, one of my, a phrase I like is my world is a cross between serenity and exhilaration. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So then I'll try and find a way to tie serenity and exhilaration. So I'll have serenity when I leave you in a mess on the floor, and the exhilaration will come when you realize that you have no hope of ever getting revenge because your career has become such a pathetic, blah, blah, blah. But
right.
There's always a way to work in a line, but you want to have clever lines in there. Well, with your gimmick, you want to have, pizza line, spaghetti lines, delivery lines, you want to use. So it makes it even easier, because that's why if you have a character, if you know how your character thinks, like, okay, I'll give you a good example. Like Shane Douglas, like some guys, like when they work with Shane, they don't like it, the fact that Shane would go, the franchise wouldn't do that. Right. Like he'll tell you, you're going over the match, and they go, the franchise wouldn't do that. Talking in the third person, because right. I love that. I love that because I want a guy who knows what his character will do. I want a guy who knows his character frontwards and backwards and knows. I may not agree with him. Like I may think, well, the franchise would do that, but maybe you don't think he would. But that's not germane. I mean, that's not important. The important point I'm trying to make is that if Shane knows his character so well that he knows what the franchise will do and what he won't, it's so much easier to put a match together. because I can say, well, let's do this. And he'll go, well, he wouldn't do this, but he would do this. I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. As opposed to working with a guy who doesn't know his character. And so basically you can't get the same kind of performance out of it.
And so, Tony, does the pizza delivery guy have his limits? Do you have your limits on what your character will do or don't do? Or is it too early?
I mean, I guess it's too early to say right now. You know, I mean, like right now, like the character that we're trying to put over at the Royal Familia is a nastier side of the delivery boy. So,
okay,
I've been babyface for a little while around in this area, and then I guess they just this company wanted to change it.
As a heel, you can just say, you know, well, first of all, do you use an actual name or just a delivery boy?
I'm the delivery boy, Tony Chini.
Then from now, as a heel, go, I want to be known as the delivery man. I'm a man. I'm not a boy. It's obvious, right, Francesca? You know, and just and tell your story. You know what I mean? And because like we said at the beginning, all promos are I'm going to kick your ass. How can you make it more clever than somebody else's? Mm-hmm. You know, so you tie in. So you're not a boy, you're a man. Change the gimmick, delivery man.
Well, actually, I was thinking about doing something. Maybe I could run it by you, see what you think.
Sure, absolutely.
So what I want to do is, instead of being the delivery boy, now I've moved and I'm the boss. Like I'm kind of like the owner of the pizza shop. So instead of calling myself the boss, for obvious reasons,
why?
I call myself La Capo Grande.
Well, first of all, the boss is fine, but La Capo Grande is fine too. They're both fine.
Because the boss is Sasha Banks right now.
Oh, I don't know. I don't follow the current product that closely.
So the boss right now is Sasha Banks. So to change it up and make it Italian, La Capo Grande.
Yeah, I like that. I like that just as well. That's just as good.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because I've been thinking about doing that transition pretty soon, and just got to.
Yeah, I was going to suggest at some point in his interview that you drop the delivery boy because it lowers you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
It's not looked upon as a high dollar job, and you want to in wrestling you want to be a star, and to be a star you got to look like a star, you got to act like a star. And delivery boys aren't necessarily stars, but they are guys that are working their way up. You know? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so I love it. I love you changing to the manager, you know?
I appreciate it.
You come out with the chef's hat then?
I don't know. There's another wrestler named Luigi Primo who does that, and he's he's the pizza maker. And we've never worked together before, but I figured we would have a good match or tag team.
He's in the same company, and you've never worked together?
We've never been in the same company. He's actually, I think he's done stuff with Impact before. Like he does some other stuff. I think he lives in, I don't know. I think he lives south. I don't remember exactly where he is, but I've never gotten to work with him.
Here's the thing too, is you got room to expand because the El Capo Grande, or I think that's what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Take that. At some point you move it into no longer being about pizza and about being mobster style. You know, you can expand it, you know. There's so many ways you can go with it, but you have to keep it as the further you get in the business, the less comic-y you want to be as a heel.
Yeah.
Because if you're funny as a heel, people laugh and then they like you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I did all my funny stuff. I had Stevie, like I loved doing funny stuff, but I would have Stevie do it, but he did it in such a way that he got laughed at, not with. And so I could get him and Meanie, I could get all my comic Jones out, you know, that would, you know, do all my, whatever I wanted to do, crazy stuff. And they would do it and they would get laughed at for it. And eventually they got so popular, they got liked for it and they turned on me, which is going to happen sooner or later anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And that was one thing I used to tell Candido, like Candido, I always told him that he was so funny in the ring that he was only going to make it to mid card. And I used to tell him this. But he would rather be funny and be mid-card than work on top and be serious. So that's what he liked. You know what I mean? But it's hard to be funny and be on top.
Yeah.
Unless you're as a baby face, you can be funnier. But as a heel, it's like the difference between Cornette and Paul E. Like that's why people always loved Cornette because he was so damn funny. You know?
Yeah.
But Paul E was funny in a mean way. He wasn't funny in a nice way. Like Paulie would say things that were funny, but they were mean and cruel. And that's why Paulie was always a heel.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Raven, you kind of answered my next question before, but so do you follow the current product at all? Do you keep any type of eye on it or no?
What I do is I don't watch it. It's too depressing.
Right.
It's like, part of it is just, I don't have time, I don't want to, cause I'm a completist. So I have to watch everything. So I don't want to spend, 7 hours a week watching every wrestling show.
I was going to say, do you see anybody who could match up to your promo style? Anybody I've seen you compared to Bray Wyatt before.
Honestly, I've seen a couple pay-per-views, but I don't watch the show. I stopped watching in 2000, believe it or not, when they abused the invasion angle.
Yeah.
I just, that for to me was, they stepped on my mistress, because fate's a cruel mistress and wrestling's the worst mistress of all. And they stepped all over her and just made me lose. I didn't lose my love for the business, but it wasn't it broke my heart. You know what I mean? And so I stopped watching it. And then once I stopped watching it, I enjoyed not watching it because there's so many books I wanted to read and so much TV I wanted to watch. And it takes a lot of time to watch, 4, 5, 6 hours of wrestling a week. Yeah. And I just kept not watching it. And also it reminded me that I never got to be the top guy in the top company. I always felt like I should have, a lot of it was my own fault. So I can't blame anybody, but because I never got to be the top guy in the top company, I was only the top guy in the number 3 company or the top guy in number 2 company, TNA.
Yeah.
It makes me sad to watch it thinking what could have been, so. And then also the factor of, that's just being honest. And the other factor is that to watch a 2 or 3 hour show, to see 20 to 30 minutes of high quality stuff is a lot of watching.
Yeah.
I don't have the love for, I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it. I've been in some of the best angles ever. If I haven't been in them, I've seen them. It's like my life's in a different place now. I still love doing it when I show up, for matches, and for appearances, but it's not, I don't have that same passion.
Of course. The creativity is still there, though. I got to say, throughout this interview, it's infectious. And Tony, so you're an avid watcher of the product yourself, right? Do you see that the delivery boy is headed to any of the promotions that are out there right now in the future? Do you know where exactly you'd want to be headed?
I think like we were just talking about, I mean, I don't really see the delivery boy moving forward like that, but I see the Capo Grande moving forward and doing something. Once I'm able to, kind of figure out who he is and as opposed to the delivery boy and right. I'm able to establish that a little more, then yeah. I mean, hopefully I'm able to get myself out there and do something, even if it's the smallest spot. I just want to show face and be there and just do whatever I can at this point,
Yeah, and I got to find a way to get better lighting in here because I'm looking pink. I look like a lobster. I gotta find a place to stick a nice lamp and light this area because even with the sun coming in, I'm looking pink and I'm not pink at all.
I believe you. Well, last question for you, Raven, would be: you've been with so many different companies, and I got to know. What if you had to pick maybe two stories of any ribbing that you either took part of or were done to you? You have any stories like that?
I love this rib. It's one of my favorites. I came in the locker room one day and I was in Portland and everybody was out and watching the matches and because there was a stage and and so they're all peeking under the curtain and the locker room was behind the stage. And I see David Sierra, Fidel Sierra, who also has that's one of my favorite names ever, Fidel Sierra. That's like a lot of name,
Yeah.
And so he's in the back and he's tying his shirt in his long sleeve shirt because it's winter in a knot, like a polo, like a button up shirt.
Right.
And he's tying his sleeve in a knot. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, shh, he goes, kayfabe. He goes, I just tied everybody else's shirts in a knot. Their shirts, their long sleeve shirts in a knot in the sleeves. And now I'm tying mine in a knot too, but I'm not tying mine as tight. So when everybody comes in, they're going to think, oh man, who ribbed me? Who tied my sleeves in a knot? Cause it's really hard to get a shirt out when they're pulled super tight.
Yeah.
It's really fucking hard to get that knot out. And he's going to be there struggling with everybody else going, oh man, son of a bitch, they got me too. And it's called the double. That's when you rib yourself to rib everybody else. You call it the double. And but it's such a great rib because it's so simple and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt anybody, but tying their sleeves in a knot is so annoying or it's like hanging a lock on people's bag, but you hang a lock on your own bag that you have the combination for. So as soon as you leave the building, you unlock it. But I never ribbed people because I didn't want to be ribbed, but I always enjoyed like harmless ribs like that. I was never big on serious ribs. Although I will say my favorite rib I ever heard was I forget it was in Memphis, and I forget who it was. I think it was the Fargo brothers. I forget. I've heard this story a million times, and I always forget who it is. But they'd pick up a hitchhiker, and so that one of the boys would get in the back seat, and they and they start driving, and so they had the hitchhiker in the passenger seat in the front. They start arguing. All of a sudden, they stop, get out of the car, pull out a gun, and shoot, and boom, he shoots the other one with a blank.
My God, this is a convoluted rib.
Yeah, and so and then he goes, quick, get it back in the car to the guy who's hitchhiking. Get back in the car. So the guy gets back in the car, and he's like, oh, my God, the whole way. Then they're driving. It's like, and the guy's going, oh, man. And the passenger, the hitchhiker's going, oh, my God, what'd you do? You killed him. It's like, who cares? He's a jerk. And they're like, in the meantime, one of the boys is driving behind him, and he pulls up, picks up the guy who was shot, jumps him in the back of the car. And so then they get to a bar, and he's telling the hitchhiker, the first guy, he's telling the hitchhiker's like, don't you tell anybody about this. He goes, I'll have you killed. And then the other guy, then he walks over, and he looks over to the other side, and there's the other guy sitting next to him, the guy that they thought he killed.
Yeah.
Tony, how fucking crazy is that?
That's really crazy. I was gonna say, Tony, it's hard to compete with that. Do you have any stories like that in your short career so far?
I don't have anything like that, and I don't really, like he said, I don't pull any ribs really because I don't get ribbed. But there was one time I got ribbed pretty good. I was the GTS champion at the time, and obviously it's a championship here in New Jersey, but I brought it to defend it in St. Louis. And
oh wow.
What's it called? So, obviously I'm like being really careful with this belt. I don't want it out of my sight at all. Yeah. We left the hotel room, just to do whatever. We come back and the belt's not on the bed. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, it can't be true. Like nobody came in here and took this belt. Like, and they're just like, oh, the cleaning lady was just in here. Like they're telling me like, oh, the cleaning lady was just in here. Like maybe they saw it. Like, I'm like, no way. I'm like looking everywhere, ripping apart the sheets. I'm like going out asking people like, did you see somebody with a belt? Like, oh my God, freaking out. And then I come back to the room like 30 minutes later and there's the belt right there. And they're just laughing their asses off.
I think the worst rib that ever happened to me was the maid in a hotel. Like, I don't think it wasn't one of the boys. It was an accidental. I don't know what it was, but I was in Mexico. I go into my room. I check in. I'm in the room. I go, okay, I'm going to go out for a walk. I go out for a walk. I come back. There's a dump in the toilet and a used tampon on the ground.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? It's like how ridiculous. It doesn't
sound like a rib. It sounds like a desperate person to me.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I know, but in this business, everything's a rib. So,
right, yeah.
But yeah, some maid was at I don't know what she did. That was ridiculous. But I had to take a picture of it because I didn't think anybody would believe me. So I actually have a picture of a dump in the toilet with a used tampon laying on the tile.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I said. I went back out for a walk, and when I came back, they cleaned it up. It was gone. I was like, okay, good.
That's gross.
At least they know what they did. But Raven, you have any last minute advice for Tony Chini? You've given wonderful words throughout this, but do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just stay with it. Try to, you want to look like a star. Like if you walk in an airport, people should go, I wonder what he's either somebody famous, he's a wrestler, he's a rock star, a tattooist, so you should you should have a unique look. I mean, I don't know what you look like in the ring, you know what I mean? But, and obviously the build, I don't know, you could have a great build. I don't know, but you want to look the part, you know what I mean? and you want to. And what I did was that's why I wore a shirt with t-shirt with sleeves cut off. I had big arms, I had no chest, and I had no abs. So and a thick waist. So I accentuated the positives, my arms and shoulders, and hid the weaknesses, which is my thick waist, my lack of abs, and my lack of chest. So always play to your strengths and always try and hide the weaknesses. Like I took a lousy arm drag, so I never took arm drags. People wanted to arm drag me. I'd go, well, what if you hip toss me instead?
Yeah.
It's always a way to get out of it, to change it. And why do something that you don't do well? Only do stuff that you can do well. And the best advice I can give is be judicious when you watch yourself back. Like when you watch yourself back, you should basically see everything terrible. Like all you should see is the terrible stuff. And then if you watch it again, you should see, like, okay, when I watch my matches back, when I watch them back, I'd see was every wrong thing I did, every hand motion wrong, every slight bit of something wrong. Then I'd watch it a second time. And now I started to see stuff I did good. Then I'd watch it a third time. And now I could see the match as a fan, like how the fans saw it and not just eyed on me. But you have to be that brutal on your own stuff. But also that good when you nail it, you have to be like, yeah, I nailed it. But you have to be brutally honest when you critique yourself, because that's the only way you're going to ever get truly better.
Yeah. When I always make sure that I have footage of my match, no matter if it's like the crappiest footage in the world, just because I want to watch myself back and do exactly that. And just
right.
For the most part, I'm looking for what I'm doing wrong, exactly like you said. And one of the hardest parts for me is actually to look back at it as a fan sometimes, and like to realize, like, well, in my mind, I messed that up. Maybe I forgot something, but to the fans, they wouldn't know that.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know the plot.
Exactly. So, sometimes it's hard for me to put myself in that position.
It's like when somebody injures himself for real and they try to hide it. Like, why are you trying to hide it? You injure yourself for real. Sell it.
Yeah.
Like it looks like if you land wrong on your ankle and it looks like you hurt your ankle, but you're not supposed to sell your ankle, guys will not sell their ankle. I'm like, why would you not sell it? You've just been given a freebie, something to add to your match to make it more exciting. Sell the fucking ankle. Don't be whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Raven, you have any of those when you actually got injured?
Oh, I've injured myself a million times. Yeah, I always do.
Right.
One time, just the stupidest thing. Like one time, I was in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, and they had a tennis racket.
Yeah.
It was a wooden one, and somebody jumped off the apron and hit me on the back with it. It stung so bad, I almost quit the business. I mean, that's how bad it stung. Well, not really, but that's how bad it stung. So I sold it like it stung. Like most people would have just sold it like they got hit. You know what I mean? I sold it like it stung. I was like, because that's how it felt. You know what I mean? And why wouldn't you? I just don't get when you're given stuff to use, utilize it,
Yeah, absolutely. No, you really highlight that. So thank you.
Oh,
yeah, go on.
Oh, one last thing. One last piece of advice. Try now while you're early in your career, learn how to work without setting up anything in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like call it all in the ring, some of your matches, not the TV ones, of course, but the house show ones, because you want to get used to calling stuff in the ring, because you want to be able to, you want to learn how to think on your feet. Because if something happens in a match, that, like say you have a TV match and you have it all scripted out, and then something happens and it screws something up, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? But if you're used to calling stuff in the ring, and let's be honest, when you call stuff in the ring at first, your matches are not going to be good. They're not going to be anywhere near as good as if you set the whole thing up in the back. But you're going to learn a skill that you can't learn anywhere else, and that's being able to think on your feet. Like you can put me in any situation, and I can think my way out of it. If you saw me, you're in a situation, this is happening, and now this changes everything. What do you do? And I'll think of something because I'm used to thinking on my feet. It doesn't give as good a match in the beginning, and sometimes you'll never have as good a match as you could choreographing it. But that skill is immeasurable. And I'll give you a quick example of it. AJ Styles and Kazarian had a match they were fighting for the TNA X Division title. and it was the last match on the show. And AJ was supposed to go over clean as the babyface, and he hit the tumbleweed, and he missed. Like he barely landed on Frankie, and the ref counted. And so Frankie kicked out at 2 9/10. And AJ goes kick out. Frankie's like, I'm kicking out, and the ref counts 3 anyway. The ref didn't hear him, and so he counted 3 because that's what the finish was. So AJ gets up, they hand him the bell, and he's like, shit. Blah, blah, blah. So as a fan, you're watching. Okay, first of all, maybe the camera angle didn't show him missing, right? So why give away the plot that he didn't hit it? Because you don't know what camera angle shot it. Secondly, he's supposed to be happy he won the title, right? But he's selling it like he's pissed off. I mean, AJ would never do this now. He's one of the most amazing guys to teach. Like, you tell him something, instantly he learns it. It's crazy. But so AJ should have been all excited. But what he should have done, he had never called matches in the ring before, and neither had Frankie. So basically the show went off the air with AJ cussing out that he won the title as a babyface. Not a good way to end the show. So I pulled him aside afterwards. I said, what you should have done, AJ, was if you were used to calling stuff in the ring, you would have thought, okay, I kicked out. No, he kicked out. I can't win the title that way. So you would have went to the ref and said, ref, he kicked out. I don't want to win the belt that way. I want to win fair and square. Restart the match. The match. Boom, Styles Clash. 1, 2, 3. Happy ending. It would even look like it was planned. You know, to the smart fan, they would think that was a planned spot, that he missed it intentionally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if Frankie should have said, if Frankie was used to calling things in the ring, but he wasn't, Frankie could have said, hey, ref, look, it's obvious. I kicked out at 2.5. You can totally see it. Ask the fans, and the fans will begrudgingly go, yeah, he did. Restart the match. Boom, Styles Clash. 1, 2, 3. Either way, but neither guy was used to calling stuff in the ring. So when something threw off the whole scenario, they got lost. Of course, it never happened to them ever again, either one of them, because they both learned. But that's also how you learn, is by making mistakes. But that's why you want to learn to call things in the ring. So if they would have been calling things in the ring in the past before that, they would have known that they would have been thinking on their feet, going, okay, we can do something with this. We can make chopped chicken shit into chicken bourdain.
Right, yeah.
Or chicken cordon bleu dick.
You just made me think of something, Raven. Your character, with being such a smart character and persona, do you think audience intelligence has definitely grown over the years? And do you think Raven, the persona, would be able to act the same way he did back in the ECW days?
I think the audience has always been more intelligent than we give them credit for, but also not as intelligent as the smart fans think they are. The smarter fan, the easiest person to con is a con. And the smarter the fan is, the easier it is to trick them. I would do stuff to make the fans think that this was going to have, like, it was going to be a screw job finish. I remember one time, like, ECW always had clean finishes. And so I set up a screw job finish, a fake screw job finish. And as I hit the move, we did the thing. I started crawling over to count to Tommy, or I didn't even started crawling yet. And the building all chanted, no more screw job finishes, no more screw job finishes. And they thought they were going to get a screw job finish. I crawled over, I covered him, 1, 2, he kicked out, and the place went silent. They're like, motherfucker, we got fooled. And they're so easy to fool because they think they know what's coming. So,
right.
But the average fan is way smarter than we give them credit for, but the smart fan isn't anywhere near as smart as they think they are.
Right.
And yes, it would work now, it would work anytime. Yeah. Smart always works. Intelligent stuff always works because people, even if they don't get it, they understand it. Like Bischoff would always say that my promos were over the fans' heads. And I'm like, they're like song lyrics. They're supposed to mesmerize you. And even if you don't quite understand them, you get the gist. Like most people, so many song lyrics are, you get an idea what it's about. You know what I mean? Even if you don't understand all the lyrics, you can't figure out every sentence, but you get the point. And that's how my promos were. But actually, my promos all made perfect sense. But they're tough some of them were tough to follow. but I believe that the people would rather be challenged than talked down to.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to look at it. It really is, and clearly it worked. Thank you both for being on the show so much. I really enjoyed this. Tony, good luck. Good luck with the rest of your career, seriously. And Raven, thank you again. This was great. You were wonderful.
Thank you. And good luck, Tony.
Thank you for everything, all your advice and everything. I appreciate it, man. I really do.
Good, man. I'm glad I could help.
But your advice it wasn't to me, but I think Tony thought it was great. Thank you.
Amazing. Yes, thank you. I actually, it's funny. You were supposed to do a seminar the day I was supposed to get married. Yeah,
really?
And I just kept trying to think of like a way that I could hit this seminar and still hit the wedding. And then with coronavirus, it ended up both of them got canceled. So this was good,
so then you can probably still do both. You can still do both.
Yeah, exactly. So
cool. Well, let me know when the wedding is, and I'll schedule the seminar another day.
There we go. Thank you.
Woo! Message Daddy. Boogie Woogie man feel good. I tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss online. Rewind, recap, relive. Oh yeah!